Virgin doctor is kidnapped to treat a dying billionaire. Then he falls madly in love with her. It was 2:37 a.m. when Dr. Amira Blake tucked the stethoscope into her white coat pocket and leaned against the cold tile wall of Southview General Hospital's ER hallway. Her shift had stretched into a brutal 16 hours, back-to-back gunshot wounds, a neglected diabetic coma, and a teenage mother too terrified to push. She glanced at the worn watch on her wrist. 30 more minutes, then I'm free, she whispered. Free? She didn't even know what that meant anymore. Her life had been nothing but textbooks, trauma calls, and a one-bedroom apartment filled with second-hand furniture and unopened takeout. Then the lights flickered. At first, it was subtle, a dull hum. The overhead fluorescence stuttered, then dimmed until only the emergency lighting kicked in. She stood up, suddenly alert. That's weird, not even storming tonight. She headed to the nurse's station, but it was empty. Strange. Nurse Layla had been charting less than 5 minutes ago. She stepped outside into the staff parking lot, the air thick with the smell of antiseptic and ozone. Her heels clicked on the pavement. A shadow moved. Too late. A van screeched behind her. Strong arms wrapped around her torso. A cloth pressed over her mouth. Her muffled scream died in her throat. Her last clear thought before everything went black. I didn't even say goodbye to my mother. She woke up to silk sheets and the scent of roses. Her head throbbed as she sat up. The room was massive, twice the size of her entire apartment. Crystal chandeliers glinted above, gilded mirrors, thick cream-colored curtains drawn tight over tall windows. Every piece of furniture was either marble or velvet. It was silent. Then the door opened. A tall man in a black suit stepped in. His eyes were cold. If you want to live, Dr. Blake, you'll treat the man in the lower chamber, right now. Amira's throat tightened. Who are you? Where am I? I demand to speak to... You're not in a position to demand anything. 2 more guards stepped in. One held a tablet showing biometric data, spiking vitals, oxygen levels falling. He has less than 24 hours. You let him die, you die too. The men dragged her through a maze of velvet hallways and gold-accented doors until they stopped at an elevator with a fingerprint scanner. They descended in silence. When the doors slid open, she saw him. Cameron Knight, unconscious, hooked to machines, pulse erratic, skin pale, lips blue. His face was devastatingly handsome, even in such fragile condition. Hair thick and curly, jaw sharp, body muscular but still. A chill ran down Amira's spine. She'd seen his face on Forbes, Business Insider, even Time magazine once. The youngest black billionaire in the country, a ghost in the public eye, rumored to be dead. And now here he was, dying. A woman entered behind her, elegant, dark-skinned, maybe early 50s, wearing a black satin blouse and pearls, composed but chilling. Miss Blake, my name is Raina Cade. I run this household. You are here to save him, nothing more. Amira looked at the monitors, then at Cameron's face. No blood pressure medication, no anticoagulants. Who's been managing this case? We were waiting for you. She froze. What do you mean, waiting for me? Raina's eyes glinted. Because he said only you could save him. The sterile hum of machines echoed in the underground suite as Dr. Amira Blake hovered over the man whose name once ruled financial empires. Cameron Knight lay motionless on a bed, custom-built into a gold-trimmed medical platform. His pulse flickered on the monitor like a dying candle. Amira tried to steady her breath. He's in full systemic collapse. Why did no one intubate him? We were instructed not to, said Raina Cade, arms folded. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Amira glared. He's minutes from slipping into irreversible shock. I don't care what your orders were. If I don't intervene now, he's dead. Raina simply nodded toward the tray of tools that had been laid out with disturbing anticipation. Do what you must, Doctor, but remember, we brought you here for a reason. You leave when he breathes on his own. Amira snapped on gloves and turned to the biometric display. Heart rate erratic, SpO2 at 81%, BP crashing. It was like he had been deliberately left at death's door. They didn't want him dead, but they didn't want him strong either. She inserted the fourth line, adjusted his oxygen, and pushed a bolus of emergency meds into his veins. Minutes passed. Then the monitor beeped. Steady. He was stabilizing. 2 hours later, Amira sat on the floor outside the chamber, her white coat stained with blood, sweat matting her curls to her forehead. Her chest still rose and fell, rapidly. You saved him, Raina said, stepping out from the shadows like a warden doing rounds. Amira didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed ahead. You're a remarkable woman. He was right. That caught Amira's attention. What do you mean? He was right. You said he asked for me. When? I've never met this man in my life. Raina offered no answer. Instead, she opened a small box and handed Amira a necklace. It was tarnished, cheap, a child's trinket. Amira gasped. She remembered this. Her heart dropped. Where did you get this? Cameron has had it since he was 12. He said one day the girl who gave it to him would save his life. Amira didn't sleep that night. She was escorted to a suite at the far end of the estate. No windows, 2 cameras, 1 locked door. She examined every corner for an escape plan, but the room was too well designed. Luxury prison at its finest. Cream walls, lavender candles, a velvet armchair in the corner. She sat down, buried her face in her hands, and whispered to herself, "This can't be real." The next morning, the guard returned. He's awake. Amira was led back to the lower chamber. She entered slowly, unsure what to expect. Cameron Knight was sitting up in bed, staring at her. His skin still pale, but his eyes, piercing grey, flecked with amber, were startlingly alert. He looked at her like he'd been waiting his whole life. So, it's you. Amira stiffened. You know me? He let out a half laugh, half cough. You gave me a peanut butter sandwich once, at a bus station, 20 years ago. I never forgot. She stepped back in disbelief. I was 8. That boy was homeless, cold, hiding from a man who wanted to hurt him, and you gave him a smile, a sandwich, and said, "Don't worry, things get better." Amira stared at him, shaken. You're that boy? I told myself, he whispered, if I ever had everything, I'd find that girl again. He coughed violently and winced. I just didn't think it'd be like this. The next morning, sunlight didn't pour in. It was completely blocked. No windows, no sounds of the outside world. Just silence and surveillance. Dr. Amira Blake sat at the corner of the plush bed, rubbing her temple as one of the guards knocked. You're summoned. She was escorted down a long, velvet-lined hallway to the private medical wing. Security cameras tracked her every movement, and her heart pounded with a creeping realization. She wasn't just being protected, she was being imprisoned. Inside the room, Cameron Knight was propped up in bed, reviewing files on a sleek glass tablet. His color had returned slightly, but his body still looked fragile, like a glass sculpture, powerful but vulnerable. He looked up as she entered. Morning, Angel. Amira raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Angel, that's what I called you as a kid, because that's what you looked like when you handed me that sandwich. White hoodie, little halo of curls. She refused to be charmed. You kidnapped me. Technically, I didn't. He smiled faintly, that half-smirk, the kind that made men dangerous, not because of what they said, but because of what they didn't say. Amira crossed her arms. "Why am I really here, Mr. Knight?" "Cameron?" "Why am I really here, Cameron?" He stared at her for a long time, the air between them stretching. "Because I don't trust hospitals, and because I only trust you." She nearly laughed. "You don't know me, but I remember you." Later that day, Amira found herself pacing the confines of her assigned suite. No internet, no phone. The only personal item in the room was her hospital ID badge, placed neatly on a marble vanity like a trophy. She tapped it with her finger. "You have a medical license and 4 degrees, she thought, "and you're locked in a mansion like a pet." She scanned every inch of the room, then the vents, then the baseboards. She found nothing until she unscrewed the back of the antique mirror. Inside, a hidden camera, blinking red. "Of course," she whispered. She was being watched. At 8 p.m., she was summoned again, not to Cameron's suite, but to the dining room. The mansion's formal dining room stretched the length of a basketball court. Gold chandeliers, blood-red velvet chairs, crystal place settings. Only one other person sat there, Miss Raina Cade. "You're adjusting well," she said, sipping red wine. Amira didn't respond. "You'll be given access to certain areas of the estate, but some doors will remain locked, for your own safety." "Who are you protecting me from?" Amira asked sharply. Raina set down her glass, eyes calm. "From the people who want Cameron dead, and from yourself." That night, Amira couldn't sleep. She lay on the cold tiles of the ensuite bathroom, her white nightgown bunched at the knees. It reminded her of childhood nights spent on her grandmother's floor during blackouts. She let herself cry, until a voice broke through the silence. From the corner speaker, Cameron's voice came softly through the intercom. "Are you okay?" She froze. He was listening. "I don't sleep either," he continued. "I haven't since I was 17. Amira's voice was barely a whisper. "Why?" "Because that's when I realized people only protect what they fear losing, and I had no one to lose me." Silence. Then Cameron said, quieter still, "Don't trust anyone, Amira, not even the ones who saved me." By the 3rd day, Dr. Amira Blake had stopped trying to pretend she wasn't being watched. Cameras blinked from ceiling corners. Footsteps echoed down the marble halls, even when she was supposedly alone. But if they expected her to act like a puppet, they chose the wrong girl. Amira had grown up in Southside Chicago, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs and taught her daughters how to fight with their minds. Amira hadn't clawed her way into med school just to be locked up and spoon-fed lies. So today, she started digging. After Cameron's morning vitals were taken, he drifted into sleep again, his body clearly still recovering. Amira slipped quietly out of his room, leaving a small monitor running a fabricated heart pattern to buy herself time. She crept into the east wing of the mansion, where she noticed the staff avoided lingering. It was dimmer, quieter, wrong. Half the doors were locked with biometric scanners. One was slightly ajar. Inside, she found what looked like an unused library, dust-covered shelves, a projector humming silently on the ceiling, a locked file cabinet. Curious, she slid open a side drawer on the oak desk and froze. Inside was a manila envelope labeled Dr. Amira M. Blake, Contingency File 14. Her blood ran cold. Back in her room, she opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a full medical profile on her, her hospital schedule for the past 3 months, surveillance photos, her walking to work, leaving the grocery store, having coffee with her best friend Zaria, a copy of her late father's autopsy report, marked Flagged for Review. None of this should be in a stranger's home, not unless she was part of something she didn't yet understand. Later that afternoon, Tay, a quiet groundskeeper with deep brown eyes and thick locks tucked into a cap, found her in the rose garden. "You're not supposed to be out here without clearance," he warned softly. She looked up. "You've seen things here, haven't you?" Tay hesitated. "I keep my mouth shut. That's how I stay alive." Amira stepped closer. "Why me, Tay? Why was I brought here?" He studied her for a long beat. "Because you're different, and because Mr. Knight doesn't trust anyone. But for some reason, he trusts you." That night, she returned to Cameron's room. He was awake, shirtless under the sheets, a faint scar cutting across his left collarbone. "You found something," he said, voice low. Amira didn't answer. "You opened the file." Still no answer. Then, "Did you read the part where it said I had them follow you for 9 months? Amira's knees almost buckled. "You what?" He sat up slowly, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I didn't know how else to find you. You saved me once. I thought, maybe you were the only one who could again." She backed away, tears forming. "You kidnapped me, Cameron." He looked down. "Number, I found you, before they did." Just then, a beeping alarm cut through the room. Amira turned to the monitor. His heart rate was spiking, blood pressure erratic. Something was wrong. She rushed to him. "Did you take something? Did someone give you medication without logging it?" He clutched his stomach, wincing. "She was here." "Who?" "Raina's sister. She hates you. She wants me dead." Amira's hands moved quickly, prepping an injection, stabilizing the IV line. She pressed the needle in. Cameron's body shuddered, then steadied. As he drifted back into unconsciousness, he mumbled just loud enough for her to hear. "Don't let her. Bury me before I tell you the truth." Cameron Knight didn't speak the rest of the night. His vitals had stabilized, but his spirit looked shaken, as if he'd faced something far more terrifying than death. Whatever Raina's sister had done to him, it wasn't just physical, it was psychological, and it had nearly succeeded. Dr. Amira Blake stood by the bed long after his breathing had evened out, watching the billionaire's chest rise and fall beneath the soft cotton sheet. He looked so different in sleep, vulnerable, almost human. Not the cold figure who orchestrated her kidnapping, not the arrogant man who spoke in riddles and secrets, just a boy from her memory, a boy hiding in the shadows of a bus station with bruises and fear in his eyes. She remembered his face now, that child, that moment, that sandwich. But what she didn't understand was why that one act of kindness had brought her here, or what kind of war she'd just stepped into. The next morning, a knock on her suite door startled her awake. "Miss Blake, Mr. Knight would like to speak with you, privately." It was Miss Raina, as usual, perfectly dressed in a black silk pantsuit and pearl studs, her expression unreadable. Amira narrowed her eyes. "I'm still a prisoner, right? Just a more medically useful one?" Raina didn't blink. "We all serve something in this house. Some serve by force, others by guilt." Before Amira could respond, 2 silent guards flanked her and led her to the private conservatory near the east wing. Cameron was waiting. The room looked like it belonged in a European palace, floor-to-ceiling glass windows, exotic plants imported from 4 continents, a koi pond in the center with marble benches surrounding it. Real sunshine, finally, streamed in through the arched glass ceiling. Cameron sat on one of the benches, his back to her, wearing a dark grey sweater and black trousers. He looked better, stronger. She didn't sit. "I could have left you to die," she said coldly. He turned slowly. His gaze was direct, soft, and, for the first time, unshielded. "I know." Then why not just ask me for help? Why the kidnapping, the cameras, the lies? Because the people trying to kill me are the same ones watching every hospital I step into. I can't trust systems, Amira. Only people. Only you. She folded her arms, not ready to be disarmed by his tone. You think just because we had one moment 20 years ago, you get to hijack my life? No, he said gently. I think that one moment changed mine. And I hoped, maybe it changed yours too. Amira's voice cracked against her will. You had no right to follow me, no right to decide my fate. He stood now, came closer, not menacing, just present. Maybe not. But I couldn't forget you, not then, not now. Silence fell between them. The koi pond bubbled softly in the background. A bird chirped overhead. Amira finally exhaled and sank onto the far end of the bench, putting space between them. Tell me the truth, all of it. Start with your illness, and end with why your enemies would rather see me dead too. Cameron hesitated, then nodded. I was born with a rare autoimmune disorder. It weakens my system during high-stress episodes. There's no cure, only management. Most doctors wouldn't touch it. You wrote a thesis on it 3 years ago. That's how I found you. Amira blinked. You read my research. I bought the medical journal. Of course he did. My condition worsened after my mother's death, he continued. Raina's sister, Celeste, was my father's mistress. She thinks the Knight estate should have gone to her son, not me. Amira's eyes widened. Wait, you have a brother? Half-brother, Malik. He's not a fan of Western medicine, or of me. He thinks I'm weak, unworthy. Celeste thinks I'm disposable. Amira processed this. The poisoning, the threats, the cameras, the file on her. It all lined up now. You brought me here because they were going to kill you and maybe pin it on someone like me. He nodded slowly. Yes. And yet you still brought me into it. His voice dropped. Because I didn't care if I lived or died until I saw your face again. The silence now felt heavier, thicker. Her heart thudded in her chest. Amira stood up abruptly. I'm not your angel, Cameron. I never said you were. She turned to leave, but he said one more thing, softly, almost lost in the sound of the koi pond bubbling. But you are the only thing that makes me want to live. Later that evening, Amira was called to his suite for a medication adjustment. She expected tension. Instead, she found laughter. Cameron was watching an old sitcom on a large plasma screen, Martin reruns. He pointed to the screen. You ever notice how Gina always acts like she's too good for Martin, but he's the one holding her down? Amira gave a tight smile. And this is relevant to your health? How? It's relevant to my sanity. She moved to check his IV drip. Vitals are good. Pressure's up. You'll live. Disappointed? She ignored that. Stay for a few minutes, he said quietly. She froze, then sat. They watched in silence for 10 minutes, the kind of silence that wasn't hostile anymore, just tentative. You never told me why you became a doctor, he said. Amira stared at the screen. Her voice was soft. My dad. He had a stroke at 48. The ER ignored him for hours because he was black, uninsured, and poor. By the time they treated him, it was too late. I'm sorry, he said. She nodded. I swore no one would die like that on my watch. And yet here you are, saving billionaires. Amira turned to him, her eyes calm but fierce. Money doesn't change biology, Cameron. Pain is still pain. Bleeding is still bleeding. He looked at her like he was seeing something rare, priceless. You're not like anyone I've ever met. She stood, collecting her clipboard. I'm not your redemption story, Cameron. I'm your doctor, that's all. As she walked out the door, he murmured, We'll see. The invitation came at 6:05 p.m., delivered not by a guard, not by Miss Rayner, but by Tay, the quiet groundskeeper who always kept his head low and his words few. Mr. Knight has requested your presence for dinner. Just you. Formal attire is laid out in your dressing room. Dr. Amira Blake blinked. I'm his physician, not his dinner date. Tay's gaze met hers just briefly. Then consider it, a professional meal. With candles, he left without waiting for a reply. Amira walked slowly into the dressing room and stopped short. There, laid neatly on the upholstered chaise, was a black off-the-shoulder velvet gown with a mermaid flare and a high slit. Next to it, matching heels. In the corner of the mirror, a handwritten note. Wear this. It's dinner, not war. See. She rolled her eyes, but she changed into the dress anyway. Not for him, for control. If she was going to be imprisoned in a mansion and forced into candlelit psychological chess matches, she'd at least look the part of a woman who could outwit a billionaire. The dining hall was transformed. The long grand table that usually sat 20 had been scaled down to an intimate setting for 2. Gold-rimmed plates, a floral centerpiece of black orchids and ivory roses. A violinist played softly in the background, near a fireplace that crackled with slow-burning logs. Cameron Knight stood as she entered. His dark burgundy dinner jacket hugged his frame perfectly, his jaw clean-shaven, curls lightly styled. He looked nothing like a dying man. Tonight he looked like the empire he owned. Amira kept her composure as he pulled out her chair. Nice dress. She raised an eyebrow. Don't flatter yourself. I look good in anything. He smiled. That you do. The meal was delicate but extravagant. Truffle risotto, seared duck breast, candied heirloom carrots. For the first few minutes they ate in silence. Then Cameron set his fork down and looked at her carefully. Do you know why I really asked you here tonight? Amira didn't respond. He continued. Because I need to ask you something. One question. If you answer it honestly, I'll release you tomorrow. No conditions. Her breath caught. He leaned forward. Are you afraid of me? The question hung there. Not what do you think of me. Not do you hate me. Not even do you believe me. Just fear. Amira placed her fork down slowly. When I first got here, I thought I was going to die. Cameron nodded, quietly listening. But then I saw how sick you were, how everyone around you followed orders, but no one cared if you lived. That told me more than you think. Her voice was firm now. So no, I'm not afraid of you, but I am afraid of who you might become if no one tells you the truth. Silence again. Then Cameron whispered, I've never had someone say that to me. The violinist transitioned to a softer melody, one of those classic soulful jazz tunes, the kind old couples dance to in Harlem nightclubs and jukebox diners. Dance with me, Cameron said. Amira blinked. Absolutely not. It's one song. I'm not. 1 minute, then you can go. She hesitated. Every muscle in her body screamed to retreat. But something else, something buried beneath layers of professionalism and resentment, pulled her forward. She stood and stepped into his arms. Cameron's hand rested lightly on her lower back, the other gently holding her fingers. Their bodies swayed in slow rhythm. For a moment, the world outside the mansion vanished. No guards, no surveillance, no poisoning relatives or secrets in locked file cabinets. Just 2 people, 2 damaged souls orbiting the same unbearable silence. You know I've never done this, Amira murmured. Cameron glanced down. Dance? She shook her head. This, all of it. I've never dated, kissed, let anyone get close. His hand paused on her back. You're serious? She nodded. Med school, clinicals, residency. My father died right before I turned 18, and I've been running on discipline and fury ever since. A pause. So yeah, I'm a 28-year-old virgin with zero social skills and a strong right hook. Cameron's chest rumbled with a soft laugh. That might be the sexiest thing I've ever heard. She pulled back slightly, glaring. Don't tease me. His eyes darkened. I'm not. He leaned in. His lips hovered close, so close she could feel the warmth of his breath, but he didn't close the distance. If I kiss you now, it won't be fair, he whispered. Why? Because I'd be doing it for me, not for you. She blinked up at him. But if you ever want me to, all you have to do is look at me like this again. Amira pulled away, heart pounding. I'm going to bed, he nodded. Of course. She turned to leave, then stopped. Cameron? He looked up. If I stay here, if I help you live, it won't be because of some childhood memory. Then why? Her voice was soft but strong. Because I'm a doctor, and you're my patient, and despite everything, I still believe people deserve a chance to fight for their lives. As she disappeared down the candlelit hallway, Cameron closed his eyes and whispered, And maybe I want to fight for more than just my life now. The next morning, Dr. Amira Blake awoke to the sound of distant thunder. Odd. There hadn't been a cloud in the sky the night before. She rolled out of bed, her body still humming with the strange electricity left over from last night's dinner, the confession, the near kiss, the slow dance under golden light and strings. Part of her wanted to blame it on adrenaline, on captivity, on exhaustion, but a deeper part, a part she had long ignored, knew it wasn't that. It was him. Cameron Knight was getting under her skin, and that terrified her more than being held captive ever did. In the medical suite, Cameron was already awake when she arrived, dressed in a navy Henley shirt and loose charcoal slacks. He looked better, stronger, less like a man clinging to life, and more like someone used to commanding empires. He greeted her with a quiet, "Good morning," but the way his eyes followed her, like they were memorizing her every gesture, made her heart skip. She busied herself with the vitals monitor. "You're healing well," she said flatly. "Thanks to you. Let's not start the day with flattery." "Fine," he murmured, eyes still on her. "Let's start it with truth." She glanced at him warily. "Last night wasn't just about dinner, Amira. It was a test." She blinked. "A test? To see how long you'd stay before your sense of duty cracked." She turned to him, chin high. "My duty won't crack, Cameron, but my patience might." "Good, you're going to need both." Later that afternoon, Amira roamed the east corridor to stretch her legs. With Cameron stable, she was granted more access, at least to certain sections of the estate. As she passed a mirror alcove, she noticed something odd. The vase of white orchids was slightly off-center. Curious, she stepped closer. And there it was, a tiny lens, hidden in the bloom. Another surveillance camera. Her spine stiffened. She turned and realized that 3 other mirror alcoves along the hallway were positioned the same way. The mansion didn't just have eyes, it had a memory. Amira made her way to the security wing she had only glimpsed before. Surprisingly, the door was unlocked. Inside, 6 monitors, all live feeds. The conservatory, the main bedroom, the library, her suite, all being watched, all the time. And on screen 6, a glitchy loop from 3 nights ago. Her room. Amira paused, watched closely. The timestamp flashed 2:03 a.m. In the footage, a shadow entered quietly through a servant's hallway. The figure approached her bed, lingered, then placed something beneath her pillow. A small pouch. The footage cut. Amira's skin crawled. She turned to leave and nearly ran into Tay. "You're not supposed to be in here," he said, voice unusually sharp. "I need to know who that was." You need to leave before Raina finds out you were snooping. Tay, this isn't a hospital, it's a battlefield, and every truth here comes with a body count. He walked away. That night, Amira confronted Cameron. You've been watching me. He didn't deny it, just sighed. For your safety. Don't insult my intelligence. Cameron stood and walked to the bar cart, poured a glass of water. Celeste's people infiltrated the estate last week. I haven't been sleeping because I've been waiting for them to make a move. And what was the pouch under my pillow? He turned sharply. You saw that? Answer the question. It was a tracking beacon, in case someone tried to remove you. Amira blinked, stunned. You've been using me as bait. Number. I've been protecting the only person I trust in this house. She stepped back. Trust? Or obsession? Both, he said honestly. But one of them kept you alive. The storm that had hovered all day finally broke. Lightning lit up the hallway windows as Amira returned to her suite. She needed answers, real ones, and there was one place she hadn't searched yet. The West Wing. The wing no one entered. The wing with a door that had always been guarded, until tonight. The storm must have distracted the security team. The guard post was empty. She approached the double mahogany doors and tested the handle. Unlocked. Inside was a corridor of framed photos. Dusty, undisturbed. Family portraits. Most featured Cameron as a boy. Thin, solemn-eyed, with a darker-skinned woman standing behind him. His mother. But one photo, near the end of the hallway, made Amira freeze. It was of her, 12 years old, in a Sunday dress, standing with her mother outside a church. The photo was real, unedited, personal. Amira's legs nearly gave out. How long had she been in his orbit without knowing it? Why did Cameron have a photo of her from her childhood? Why had he been following her family before he ever fell ill? Suddenly, the floor creaked behind her. Amira spun, too late. A sharp force knocked her against the wall. She blinked up to see a woman she had never met before. Tall, impeccably dressed in all white, eyes cold as glass. You weren't supposed to find this room, the woman said. Amira struggled to her feet. Who are you? Celeste Knight, the true heir to this estate. And you're the infection Cameron brought into this house. Amira's chest heaved. You tried to kill him. I tried to free him. Celeste took a step forward. You think he loves you? He doesn't even know you. You're a memory in a pretty shell. You're a fantasy, and fantasies are dangerous. She raised a hand. And they must be erased. Suddenly, bang! Glass shattered behind them. A bullet missed Celeste's head by inches. Gunfire erupted outside the window. Guards shouted. Sirens blared. Amira dropped to the floor as chaos exploded around her. A sniper, on the roof, targeting the mansion. Someone had finally made their move. In the confusion, Tay burst into the hallway and pulled Amira to safety. We have to move, now! Where's Cameron? He's the target. If they take him out, the estate goes to Malik. As they ran, Amira's heart pounded, not from fear, but from something more dangerous. From the knowledge that she was no longer just his doctor. She was his weakness. And now, so was he. The mansion had never known disorder, until now. Dr. Amira Blake clutched the marble banister as Tay led her through a hidden corridor in the West Wing. Dust fell from the ceiling as distant explosions of glass and shouting echoed across the estate. Guards ran in every direction. Red lights pulsed in the halls. This is a coordinated hit, Tay muttered. They've breached the north gardens and the staff entryway. Someone helped them from the inside. Amira's pulse pounded. Cameron? Safe room. Raina's getting him there now. They reached an iron door at the end of a narrow staircase. Tay tapped in a code. and ushered her through. A dim hallway opened before them. "Stay here," he ordered. "Don't move until I come back." "Tay, wait, who are you really?" He hesitated. "Someone who owes Cameron his life, just like you do now." Then he disappeared. 15 minutes passed. Amira leaned against the wall, heart still racing. The silence was heavy, too heavy. She pushed off the wall and crept down the hall toward a cracked door. Voices filtered through, one familiar, one not. "But you think she's strong enough to handle what's coming?" a woman asked, sharp and dripping with disdain. "She has to be," said Cameron's voice. Amira stepped closer. "You're still playing house with your little doctor," the woman mocked, "still hoping she'll fix what's broken inside you." "Trina, stop!" The name hit Amira like a slap. She pushed open the door slightly. Inside was a luxurious drawing room, untouched by the chaos outside. Cameron Knight stood near the fireplace, and sitting on the leather chaise, legs crossed, flawless in a white-tailored pantsuit and red stilettos, was a woman Amira had never seen before. She was stunning, cool-toned caramel skin, thick waist-length waves, and a face that looked like it had graced magazines, and probably still did. "You didn't tell her about me, did you?" Trina said, eyes gleaming. "Because you don't matter anymore," Cameron snapped. Amira's breath hitched. Trina smiled. "Oh, I think I do." Amira stepped fully into the room. Both turned to look. Cameron's eyes widened. "Amira, don't stop on my account," she said coolly. "Sounds like I walked into something. Real cozy." Trina stood. "You must be her. The girl he locked down in this glorified prison." She walked slowly toward Amira, heels clicking like a countdown. "You know, I used to run this place. Sat right in that chair during board meetings. Shared his bed, signed his ND as Amira didn't flinch. And now you're what? His ex?" Trina smirked. "I'm the one who knows him, the one who saw him when his hands were still dirty. You think he's changed because he says nice things in candlelight?" Amira's voice was steady. "Number, I think he's trying." "Men like him don't try, sweetheart. They calculate. You're not his partner. You're his painkiller." Cameron stepped between them. "That's enough, Trina." She turned to him, fire in her eyes. "She's your new weakness, and everyone knows it. Malik will come for her next, and you won't survive it." She walked to the door and paused. "Don't say I didn't warn you when this little fantasy burns to ash." She left. Silence. Amira looked at Cameron. He opened his mouth, but she stopped him. "Number, don't give me a rehearsed speech. She wasn't supposed to be here. Malik sent her. She's just a pawn." "You didn't deny anything she said." He ran a hand through his curls. "Because she wasn't lying. Trina and I were close, years ago. But it wasn't love. It was strategy. A power move for both of us. And it ended the moment she tried to control me." Amira's voice cracked. "And I'm not a power move." "Number, you're the only real thing I've touched in a decade." He took a step forward. "I didn't bring you here because I needed a doctor. I brought you here because you reminded me what it felt like to believe in someone." She shook her head, backing away. "You still don't get it. I didn't choose this. You decided for both of us." "I know, and I would take it back if I could." Amira's eyes filled with tears. "But you can't." She turned and walked out. She returned to her suite and locked the door. Her chest ached, not from fear, from betrayal, and worse, from care. She had let herself begin to care. The next morning, Amira woke early. She needed clarity, space, a reminder of who she was before all this began. She dressed quickly and headed to the old rose garden. The dew sparkled on the petals as the morning sun broke through. Bees hummed softly. For once the estate was still. She walked between the rows of red and ivory blooms, breathing deeply. Then she saw it. At the base of the largest rose arch, a small bouquet, hand-picked, wrapped in ribbon, attached, a note. For the woman who reminded me how to fight. See. Her hands trembled. She turned, and there he was, Cameron, dressed in black slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled, eyes bare. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said quietly. "I'm asking you to let me deserve it." She stared at him. "Why me?" "Because you saw me when I was nothing, and I've spent every day since trying to be worthy of that moment." A long pause. Amira stepped forward. "I can't promise anything." "I'm not asking for promises." She looked down, then back up. "But you're not the only one who remembers that day." Suddenly, crack, gunfire. They both dropped to the ground. Another shot ripped through the rose arch above them. "Get down!" Cameron shouted, pulling her behind a stone pillar. Guards rushed in. Raina's voice screamed over the radios. "Sniper on the roof! Secure the garden!" Amira clutched Cameron's arm. He was bleeding, not badly, but enough to make her heart stop. "Stay with me. Look at me." "I'm not going anywhere," he gritted out. As chaos reigned once more, Amira finally understood something terrifying and beautiful. She wasn't just his weakness anymore. He was hers. The rose garden still reeked of blood and broken silence. Dr. Amira Blake sat on the floor of the estate's emergency medical wing, her hands trembling as she stitched a shallow graze along Cameron Knight's upper arm. Though the bullet had only clipped him, her heart still hadn't stopped racing. She had felt it too deeply this time. This wasn't just about ethics anymore. This was about him. And now she knew. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. "Do you always shake this much when you suture?" Cameron teased, lips curled in a weak smile. "Only when the patient is a hard-headed billionaire who won't stay behind bulletproof glass?" "Sounds like someone cares." Amira looked up sharply. "Someone has to." Their eyes held for a beat longer than they should have. Then the door opened. Miss Rayner walked in, her face hard, clipboard in hand. The shooter was a paid contractor, no direct ties to Malik, but they used one of our own access codes. Amira straightened. "Someone from inside?" Rayner nodded. "Possibly more than one, but that's not the only breach." She handed Amira a tablet, security logs, surveillance overlays, GPS data from the night Amira was kidnapped. Amira scrolled and froze. Her own face appeared on screen, walking through the hospital lot. The grainy figure trailing behind her wasn't masked. It was her cousin, Jordan Blake. Amira's knees buckled. "No," she whispered. Cameron sat up, frowning. "What is it?" She held the tablet up. "It was Jordan, my mother's nephew. He helped them take me." Rayner added quietly. "He received a wire transfer 2 days prior. Untraceable account. Offshore." Amira's stomach churned. Jordan. The boy she grew up sharing boxed macaroni and Kool-Aid with. The one who swore he'd take care of her after her father died. "But why?" she whispered. Rayner was blunt. "Because you're valuable, not just to Cameron, but to the estate. You're leverage. They want to break him from the inside. You're the crack they can exploit." Cameron's jaw tightened. "Find him. Bring him in alive." Rayner nodded and exited. Amira stood in silence for a long moment. "I trusted him," she whispered. "He knew how hard I worked to get here. He knew what it cost me." Cameron reached for her hand gently. "He didn't betray you because he hated you. He did it because he didn't value you enough not to." Later that day, Amira stood alone in the forbidden wing again, this time by choice. The portrait hall that had once frightened her now felt like a key to something larger, something unfinished. She walked slowly past the images of the Knight family, fathers in tuxedos, mothers in evening gowns, children in stiff smiles, but one photo stopped her cold. A boy, about 9, standing beside a woman who looked exactly like Amira's mother. She reached for the frame and turned it over. Handwritten. Cameron and Ms. Deborah Blake, Summer Outreach, 1998. She stumbled back. That was her mother. At a summer outreach clinic, she once mentioned working at, volunteering to help underprivileged boys in South Chicago. She had never said much about it, just that one child had stuck with her. Now Amira knew why. She returned to Cameron's room in a daze. He sat near the window, watching the sunset. His shoulder was wrapped, but he looked calm, almost peaceful, until he saw her face. "What happened?" She held out the photo. "Tell me the truth, Cameron. How long have you been following me?" He stood slowly. "Amira." "How long?" He took the photo, closed his eyes. "Since I turned 18. She gasped. "That's 10 years. I searched for your mother first. I wanted to thank her, but I found her obituary. And then I found you." Amira stared at him. "You watched me grow up." "Not like that," he said quickly. I kept tabs, made sure you were okay, paid off part of your student loans anonymously, pulled strings when you applied to med school." Her voice cracked. "You manipulated my life. I protected it. From what? From the same people who tried to kill you this week." Silence. Only the wind stirred through the open window. Cameron stepped closer. "When I was a kid, I wanted to be free, but every time I tried to run, someone pulled me back into the shadows. You were the only light I ever saw. You gave me something I didn't know I needed." "Hope." Amira looked away. "You should have told me. You would have run. You didn't give me a choice. And yet you stayed." That stopped her. She hated that he was right. That night, Amira returned to her suite and found a note under her pillow. A different handwriting, no signature. "You're not safe. Someone wants Cameron dead by the end of the week, and you're the key. Leave now, or blood will follow. A friend." She crumpled the note and clutched it to her chest. The walls were closing in again, and the mansion had even more secrets to tell. Elsewhere. In a dim basement room beneath the estate, Jordan Blake paced. He was tied to a chair, bruised, bleeding, but alive. A figure stepped from the shadows. Malik Knight. "You were supposed to deliver her, not fail." Jordan coughed blood. "She wasn't alone. Cameron's people are stronger than we thought." Malik raised a brow. "So we try again, but this time we don't ask nicely." He turned to the guards. "Bring in the recording. And her file. If she won't break Cameron's body, she'll break his heart." Thunder cracked overhead as midnight painted the estate in blue shadows and tension. The storm outside was violent, but not as dangerous as the one growing within the walls of the Knight mansion. Dr. Amira Blake stood by the window in her room, gripping the unsigned warning note found beneath her pillow. "You're not safe. Someone wants Cameron dead by the end of the week, and you're the key." She had read it 20 times. Every word felt like a thread unraveling her sanity. Someone inside the house was working to kill Cameron, and someone else was trying to protect her. But who? At 2:47 a.m., a guard pounded on her door. "Dr. Blake, emergency, now." Her heart stopped. She threw on her coat and followed them through the hall. But something felt wrong. They weren't headed to Cameron's suite. They were going down, toward the underground wing. "Wait," she said. "Where are we going?" No answer. She stopped. "Where's Cameron?" The taller guard turned and smiled. "Don't worry, Doc. You're about to find out everything." They forced her into an armored vehicle in the basement garage and drove for over an hour through the rain until they reached an abandoned warehouse lit only by generator-powered floodlights. Inside, a single chair, ropes, chains, two men in suits she didn't recognize, and a voice that shattered her heart. "Took you long enough." From the back of the room stepped Jordan Blake, her cousin, bruised but grinning like a man proud of his evil. "You always were the golden child," he sneered. "But let me tell you something. Mira, gold's soft. It bends." "Why?" she choked. "Why would you sell me out?" "Because I got tired of struggling while you played savior. Always perfect, always praised. You think that degree made you untouchable? You betrayed blood." "No," he spat. "I corrected the order of things." He stepped forward. "They want information. You're going to give it. I don't know anything. That's not what your boyfriend thinks." He pulled out a tablet and hit play. On screen, a blurry video feed of Cameron speaking to Raina. "She's my weakness. If they get to her, I'll give them anything." Amira's stomach dropped. The screen cut. Jordan leaned in. "See that? You're the bait now, the lever. Say the word, and we destroy him." She glared. "Do it, but I'll never be part of this." "Oh, you already are." Back at the estate, chaos erupted. Cameron woke to Raina pounding on his door. "Amira's gone. The guards were fakes. They breached the south wall." Cameron bolted upright. "Where?" "We tracked the car for 40 minutes. Then it vanished." He clenched his fists. "Malik." Raina nodded grimly. "And someone inside helped." "Tay?" "Missing." Cameron's face hardened. "Get the chopper. We're bringing her back." At the warehouse, Amira sat bloodied and exhausted. They hadn't hurt her badly yet, but they were escalating. "Last chance, Doctor," Jordan growled. "Tell us his backup account location, or we start cutting off fingers." Amira coughed blood. "He doesn't tell me that kind of thing." "But he trusts you. That's what makes you dangerous." Just then, gunfire erupted. The walls exploded inward. Smoke filled the air. "Get down!" Flash grenades blinded everyone. Cameron burst in with full tactical gear, flanked by private security. He took down 2 guards in seconds, tackled Jordan, and dragged Amira into his arms. "I got you. You're safe now." She could barely speak, but she clung to him like he was air. Back at the estate, she was rushed into the emergency wing. Cameron stayed by her side through every scan and stitch. Her face was bruised, lips split, 2 cracked ribs, but she survived, and he hadn't let go of her hand once. Later, alone in her suite, she sat up in bed as Cameron paced. "I'm sorry," he said for the 100th time. "I should have never let you out of my sight." "You didn't. They came through your walls." "That's exactly my point." She touched his arm gently. "You saved me. You were never supposed to need saving." Amira looked up at him. "Why didn't you tell me about the offshore accounts, the contingency plans?" He hesitated. "Because I wanted one thing in my life to not be about money, or power, or manipulation." "I wanted you to be real." Her voice broke. "I am real, and I don't deserve you." He turned to leave, but she stood, ribs aching, and stopped him. "Then earn me." That night, as the storm outside calmed, Cameron sat beside her bed. He held her hand and whispered, "You are the only thing in this house not touched by violence, and I will burn this empire down before I let it stain you." She closed her eyes, and for the first time since she entered the mansion, she believed him. The rain hadn't stopped. It had been falling for 2 days straight. Dr. Amira Blake lay in her bed at the night estate, staring at the ceiling, wrapped in bandages, her mind still spinning from the kidnapping, the warehouse, Jordan's betrayal, and the chilling knowledge that someone inside the mansion wanted Cameron gone, and her gone with him. Cameron Knight hadn't left her side. He slept on the floor, brought her food, watched over her like a soldier guarding the last light in a war-torn world. And yet, something still felt broken, because the deeper they fell into each other, the louder the world around them screamed that it wasn't safe. That evening, Tay returned, battered, limping, alive. He entered the medical wing where Amira was recovering, his hat clutched in his hands. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. Amira looked up. "Where were you?" "Captured, chained in one of Malik's outer compounds. He wanted me to record a message, begging Cameron to give up the estate. I refused." "How'd you get out?" "Didn't. Someone inside let me go, left the door unlocked." Amira frowned. "Who?" "Don't know, but I think they're trying to help us from the inside." He handed her a flash drive. "Found this in the safe room. You'll want to watch it alone." Amira waited until Cameron stepped out for a call. She plugged the drive into the tablet, a single file. "Trina voicemail, leak.move." Her stomach turned. Trina, the woman from his past. She hit play. Trina's voice filled the room, smooth and venomous. "If I can't get to Cameron through business, I'll get him through her." She's soft, sweet, the perfect little virgin. "She'll fall for the whole savior act, just like I did. Only this time, I'll be the one watching him break her." A beat. "And when he does, I'll be there to remind him what real power looks like." The screen went black. Amira's hands trembled. She wasn't even surprised. She'd felt the shift, the manipulation, the shadows moving. She just hadn't wanted to believe the man who had kissed her like she was his only breath was still drowning in secrets. Later that night, Cameron returned with takeout. Yes, takeout. Pad Thai and lemonade from a tiny restaurant in town that he had airlifted from 2 states over because she once mentioned it. He placed the tray beside her. "For the record, it's not poisoned." She stared at it. "I'm not hungry." "Did I do something wrong?" She looked at him, expression unreadable. "Did you ever mean any of this, or was I just a strategy?" Cameron froze. "Why are you asking me that?" She slid the tablet across the bed. The video played. His face paled. He turned away. "That was before, months ago, before I knew you." Amira's voice broke. "But you still let me fall for you." "No, I didn't let anything happen. I tried to stay away." "You orchestrated my life." "I was trying to protect you. You used me. I loved you." Silence slammed into the room like a dropped vase. Amira stared at him. "Say that again." Cameron stepped closer. "I love you. I don't know when it happened, but it did. And I would trade every dollar, every company, every soldier and safe house, just to wake up next to you with no bodyguards outside." Her lips trembled. "You don't get to say that and still lie." "I'm not lying anymore." She picked up the takeout box and threw it across the room. "Then why do I feel like I've been handled?" He flinched. "Because I've been handled my whole life. I don't know how to ask for love, Amira. I only know how to buy it." "I'm not for sale. I know that now." She wiped her face angrily. "I don't know what's worse, Trina's plan, or the fact that it almost worked." Cameron knelt in front of her. "Don't let her take this from us." "I don't know if there is an us." He lowered his head. "Then let me fight for one." The next morning, Amira was gone. Not kidnapped, not stolen, just gone. She left no note, no trace, only the necklace she always wore, laid gently on his nightstand. Across the city, in a small inn under a false name, Amira stood by the window, watching the sunrise. She had to leave, to remember who she was before him, not because she hated him, but because she loved herself, and sometimes distance was the only way to survive a storm. Meanwhile, Malik Knight leaned over a boardroom table, flanked by guards and crooked lawyers. "She's gone," one of them said. "Walked out at dawn." Malik smiled. Then it's working. He tapped a folder. Inside, a marriage certificate, a forged will, and a warrant drafted in Cameron's name. If she doesn't come back, we take the house. If she does, we take him. The morning air smelled like freedom. But Dr. Amira Blake didn't feel free. She sat alone in a cheap motel room an hour outside Chicago, dressed in faded jeans and a hoodie she hadn't worn since med school. No security guards, no bulletproof glass, no chandeliers or rose gardens, just silence and the echo of Cameron Knight's voice in her memory. I love you. I would trade everything for you. She had wanted to believe it, had almost let herself, but what she needed now wasn't a man who loved her under pressure. She needed space, truth, time to become herself again, without surveillance, without secrets, without betrayal disguised as protection. But time was running out, because love wasn't the only thing chasing her. Back at the estate, the Knight mansion no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a tomb. Cameron stood in the grand library, still in the same black sweater he wore the night Amira walked out. He hadn't slept, barely spoken. The guards gave him space. Raina stayed quiet. Even the koi pond had gone still. He replayed the moment in his head 1,000 times. Her turning away, her fingers unclasping the necklace, her goodbye without words. And now, the house that had once held everything felt like it held nothing. Sir, said Raina, entering quietly. We have a problem. Cameron didn't look at her. It's already gone, everything that matters. No, she said. It's Malik. He's filed an emergency claim to seize the estate. His head snapped up. On what grounds? Fraud, financial misrepresentation, and, she hesitated, emotional coercion of a medical professional under hostage circumstances. His stomach dropped. He's using Amira to take the house. Unless she comes forward to refute it within 72 hours, he wins. Cameron's jaw clenched. Then we find her. Raina stepped forward. You can't force her to return, not again. I won't, but I'm not letting her take the fall for loving me. He turned toward the door. If I lose her and this empire, let it be because I chose her. 3 hours later, Amira walked into a quiet coffee shop in Bronzeville. She ordered a chai latte, sat near the window, and opened a book, trying to feel normal, trying to be normal. But the world kept tugging at her. A woman at the next table whispered to her partner. That's the doctor from the news, the one with the Knight family. She lowered her head, but the weight of the moment wouldn't let go. Because even here, in hiding, she wasn't free. The truth was, she loved him, not the billionaire, not the bodyguards, not the name. Him. And he had risked everything for her. So what was she running from? Later that evening, back at the motel, a knock rattled the door. Amira opened it slowly, expecting the manager. Instead, it was Tay. Don't panic, I came alone. Amira stepped back, surprised. How did you find me? You left your digital trail cleaner than most, but not perfect, she sighed. If Cameron sent you, he doesn't know I'm here. He handed her a small envelope. It's from him. He wrote it, didn't send it. I took it from his desk. She opened it. Amira, I don't know how to ask for forgiveness, so I won't. I only know how to tell the truth now. If you never come back, I'll understand. But I will never love another woman, not in this lifetime. I thought I was dying when I met you. I didn't realize I was already dead, and you were the first thing that made me want to live. If this empire falls, let it. But know that the only thing I ever truly wanted to protect was you. See, tears fell before she could stop them. Tay cleared his throat. Malik is making his move tomorrow. If you don't show, he wins the house. Amira stared at the letter. And what happens to Cameron? He loses everything, and maybe more. She closed the letter and stood. The next morning, the Knight estate was on lockdown. Cameron stood in the courtroom built into the west wing, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a long table where Malik sat smugly with lawyers on either side. "Let the record reflect," Malik said, "that the defendant used his resources to manipulate a state-licensed physician into illegal captivity. This voids his claim to control Knight Holdings, as he's demonstrated psychological instability and coercive behavior." Cameron remained silent. "Any witnesses to defend this claim?" the estate lawyer asked. Cameron shook his head. "No one." The judge reached for his pen, and then the doors opened. Amira stepped in, dressed in a soft grey blazer and dark jeans, no makeup, hair tied in a loose bun, but her presence was thunder. Everyone turned. She walked straight to the stand. "I'd like to submit a sworn statement." The judge nodded. Amira opened the folder. "I was taken against my will, that's true, but I chose to stay, chose to heal him, chose to love him." Gasps echoed. "This man never once touched me without consent. He never threatened me. He protected me from people trying to use me against him." She looked at Malik. "Like his brother." Malik's face darkened. Amira turned to the judge. "I'm not a victim. I'm a witness to love inside a battlefield." The judge raised a brow. "And your medical license?" "Still intact," she said, handing him a signed affidavit from the state board. "Reviewed. No misconduct found." An hour later, the judge banged the gavel. "Case dismissed. Assets remain under Cameron Knight's control." Malik stormed out, but no one noticed, because all eyes were on Cameron and Amira. They stood in the center of the room, frozen. She stepped forward. "I left to find myself." "And did you?" he whispered. "Number, because I realized I wasn't missing. You were." He reached for her hand. "You came back. Not for the house, not for the name. Then why?" She smiled through her tears. "Because you wrote me a letter no man ever had the courage to send. And because you're the only man I'd fight an empire for." Outside, the rain had finally stopped. Cameron pulled her close, forehead against hers. "Stay. Try and make me leave again," she smiled. He kissed her, this time not as a man who was dying, but as a man reborn. The sun glinted off the limestone walls of the Knight estate, and for the first time in weeks, the mansion buzzed with life, not danger. Florists arrived at dawn. Silver trays carried champagne across marbled floors. A red carpet was being rolled across the grand steps. Paparazzi waited outside the gates like wolves circling a feast. Cameron Knight, dressed in a tailored black three-piece suit, stood in front of the press, confident, collected, and camera-ready. "Thank you all for coming," he said into the mic. "This is a private matter, but some truths deserve to be shared with the world." The crowd leaned in. Cameron smiled softly. "I'm engaged." A collective gasp rippled across the reporters. Cameras flashed, questions fired. "To whom? Is it true she was your doctor? Wasn't she missing for weeks? Is this a cover-up?" And then Amira walked out, stunned, unprepared, dressed in a sleek navy gown Raina had sent to her room just 30 minutes ago. She had barely finished zipping it before she was ushered down the marble staircase. The lights blinded her. The flashes burned her skin. She stepped beside Cameron slowly, eyes narrowing. He reached for her hand. She didn't take it, not yet. "This is Dr. Amira Blake," Cameron said, gaze locked on her now. "She's the reason I'm alive, and she's going to be my wife." Later, inside the mansion, the doors slammed shut behind them. "What the hell was that?" Amira shouted, spinning to face him in the foyer. Cameron loosened his tie. "Damage control." "You blindside me in front of the entire country and call it damage control." Malik filed a secondary motion to claim familial priority over the Knight legacy. If I'm married or engaged, he legally loses his leverage. Amira stared at him in disbelief. You used me again. No, he said softly. I protected you again. She laughed bitterly. From what? Love? Honesty? Consent? From a system that wants to destroy both of us. Raina stepped in then, holding a velvet box. You'll need to wear this, she said. Inside, a stunning 5-carat diamond ring, set in platinum, flanked by 2 sapphires. Royal, heavy. Amira stared at it. It's beautiful, she murmured. It's armor, Raina corrected. Nothing more. Hours later, the media frenzy hadn't stopped. Online headlines screamed, Black billionaire's mystery fiancé finally revealed. Who is Dr. Amira Blake, Chicago's most private power couple, unveiled? And under them, comments. Endless, biting, racist, cruel. She's just another gold digger. I give it 6 months. Bet she seduced him with a sob story. She's not even pretty enough for him. Amira closed her phone. Hard. That evening, Cameron entered her suite. She stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, hair wrapped in a silk scarf, still in her gown. You didn't ask me. I didn't have time. You always have time to tell the truth, Cameron. He exhaled. You're right, and I'm sorry. He reached into his jacket. I had this made weeks ago, before the case, before you left. He opened a second box. Inside, a gold ring with no diamonds, just an engraving inside the band. She read it aloud. Still breathing because of you. Her eyes filled with tears. I wasn't going to give it to you unless you asked me to. She turned away. Then why give me the first one? Because sometimes the world needs a spectacle, but my heart needs a promise. Silence. Then Amira spoke. So which ring do I wear in public? The diamond. And which one in private? Whichever one you want to believe. The next day, Trina went live on social media, wearing silk, in a penthouse, with her hair slicked back and a wine glass in hand. You know what's crazy? She purred to her 2 million followers. When the man who used to call you his escape suddenly finds a new savior. Poor thing, she probably thinks he loves her. She laughed. Not I give it 6 months. That video reached 800,000 views in 5 hours. In the estate library, Amira sat alone, reading the will. Not Cameron's original one, the revised version, the one he hadn't told her about, the one that now stated, in the event of my death, all Knight holdings will transfer to Dr. Amira Blake. Without contest, her hand trembled. What are you doing to me, Cameron? She whispered. Because this wasn't just love anymore. This was legacy, and it could kill them both. The storm was back, not outside, but within the walls of the Knight estate. And this time, Dr. Amira Blake wasn't afraid of thunder. She was afraid of silence, the kind that followed Cameron's footsteps after she found his will. The silence that meant secrets. The silence that always came before betrayal. It started with a locked drawer. Amira hadn't meant to snoop. She was simply looking for a pen in Cameron's private study. But when the drawer clicked open beneath her hand, what fell out wasn't a pen at all. It was a sealed red folder labeled Knight Holdings, Contingency Transfer, Directive, AB. Her initials. Inside, she found the latest revision of Cameron's last will and testament. Signed, notarized, effective immediately. It read, In the event of my death, full control of Knight Global assets will transfer to Dr. Amira Blake, including the Knight estate, all board voting power, and the Knight Philanthropic Trust. No backup trustee, no second heir, just her. She waited until he returned from a board meeting. He looked exhausted, loosened tie, blazer off, jaw tight from long hours of negotiation. But when he saw her holding the folder, his eyes locked. No fear, just quiet resignation. "You weren't supposed to see that yet," he said softly. Amira held up the paper. "So I'm not just your fake fiancé now, I'm also your death inheritor?" "It's not what you think. Then explain it." Cameron walked to the bar cart and poured a glass of water, hands steady. "If something happens to me, and I've known for years something will, I want to make sure everything goes to someone who won't destroy it, someone I trust." "You barely know me," she snapped. "I know enough. Do you even love me, Cameron? Or am I just another insurance policy?" His voice dropped. "You know I do." "Then why does this feel like a bribe?" They didn't speak for the rest of the night, not during dinner, not during the walk past the koi pond, not when he reached for her hand under the moonlight and she gently pulled away. But the estate wasn't as still as it seemed. In the shadows of the security wing, Miss Raina Cade stared at the glitching surveillance monitor in horror. Someone had entered the medical wing without authorization, and 20 minutes later, the medical inventory log showed one critical item was missing: synthetic vecuronium bromide, a powerful paralytic, used in surgeries, lethal in the wrong dose. Meanwhile, Amira sat in the estate's old library. Her heart was still sore, her mind tangled. She needed answers. About Cameron, about his past, about hers. She returned to the family archives, searching through the locked cabinets and drawers, desperate for clarity. And that's when she found the safe, hidden behind a shelf of antique law books, recessed into the wall. Fingerprint protected, voice-coded, but someone had left it open. Inside were two things. One, a small pistol engraved with a rose and a name in cursive, L. Knight. Two, a sealed envelope marked, "To my son, if they ever come for you." Amira opened it with shaking fingers. The letter inside was handwritten, the ink faded but elegant. "Cameron, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and they're coming for you now. Malik was never just your brother, he was your father's experiment, a weapon disguised as a son. Celeste has always wanted the Knight Empire for her bloodline, but you were always mine, and I raised you to protect not just the name, but the soul of this legacy. Find the girl with the healer's hands and the warrior's heart. She will protect you in ways I never could. Her name is Amira Blake. I met her mother once. She saved me, just as her daughter will save you. Love. Mom." The letter fell from Amira's hands. Her breath left her body. Her mother knew his mother. This wasn't fate. This was destiny. And suddenly, her entire life made sense. Why she was followed. Why she was chosen. Why when she looked at Cameron, she saw pieces of herself in his wounds. They were tied by blood, by memory, by a promise made long before either of them could say the word legacy. She ran to Cameron's suite. He was sitting in the corner, tie gone, shirt sleeves rolled, staring at nothing. When she burst in, he stood. "Amira?" She held the letter up with trembling hands. "Why didn't you tell me our mothers knew each other?" He blinked. "I didn't know, not for sure. I suspected, but I didn't want to make you feel like you were born into this." "But I was." She stepped closer, breath shaking. "Your mother wrote about me, about my hands. My heart. I didn't want you to feel trapped." "Too late," she whispered. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out the will. "But if you're going to trust me with your empire," she tore the paper in half, "then trust me with your life." He stared at her and smiled. "You just became the most dangerous woman in this house." Meanwhile, downstairs, in the staff kitchen, a gloved hand poured vecuronium into a bottle of imported mineral water, labeled "For Mr. Knight Only." A quiet whistle, a calm retreat, and a text message sent to a burner phone. "It's in his drink. He won't wake up tomorrow." But fate wasn't finished playing with time, because when Amira entered the kitchen moments later, tired, barefoot, craving water, she reached for that bottle, poured it, raised it to her lips, and stopped. Something was off. The scent, the weight, the chill on the bottle didn't match the others in the fridge. Her instincts kicked in. She pulled her personal reagent strip from her coat pocket, a trick she learned in med school rotations when she didn't trust the conditions in low-budget clinics. She dipped the strip, watched it turn blue. Paralytic agent detected. She froze. Someone had tried to poison Cameron and almost killed her instead. She sprinted to his room, burst through the door. "Don't drink the water!" Cameron, mid-sip, looked up just as she slapped the bottle from his hand. Glass shattered on the floor. Raina ran in seconds later. "The reagent confirmed it," Amira panted. "Someone tried to kill him." Cameron looked at her, stunned. "You just saved my life again." Amira's eyes welled. "One of these days, you're going to have to start saving yourself." That night, Cameron held her as they sat in the security suite reviewing footage, trying to trace the hand, the moment. "We'll find them," he whispered. "We have to," she murmured, "because next time they'll aim for my heart." "Too late," he said quietly, brushing her cheek. "They already have it." The ballroom of the Knight estate had not hosted an event in years. Tonight it blazed with light. Crystal chandeliers glimmered overhead. A live quartet played slow, soulful jazz beneath white gold arches. Every flower, candle, and mirrored panel gleamed like it had been hand-picked by royalty. It was elegant, opulent, intentional. It was the engagement party of Cameron Knight and Dr. Amira Blake. But beneath the glamour, secrets stirred like smoke in silk. Because tonight wasn't just about celebration, it was about exposure. It was about closure. It was about the final move in a game started by the dead. Amira stood before the full-length mirror in the East bridal room, dressed in an ivory off-shoulder gown, lined with crystal beading and a slit that whispered danger beneath elegance. Her curls were pinned in a soft chignon. Around her neck was a vintage diamond necklace from Cameron's mother's private vault, passed down with a note that simply read, "For the woman brave enough to love my son." Behind her, Miss Raina adjusted her veil. "You look like the woman who's going to change this family's story." Amira met her own reflection's eyes. "Let's just hope I survive it." Downstairs, Cameron adjusted the cufflinks on his dark blue tuxedo. Tay entered with a sealed envelope. "This just came by courier. No name, no return address." Cameron opened it. Inside, a single photo of him and Amira, kissing, on the night she returned to the estate. Across it, in blood-red ink, someone had scrawled, "Midnight. She dies first." Cameron went still. "Lock the estate down. No one leaves, no one enters, no matter who they are." Tay nodded grimly. "Understood." The engagement party began with elegance. Champagne flowed. Classical music swelled. Politicians, board members, and billionaires filled the room, trying to outsmile each other while circling the power couple like sharks in silk. Amira stood at Cameron's side, smiling through pressure, grace in every movement. But beneath the surface, her pulse thundered. Midnight was coming, and someone wanted her gone before it arrived. At 11:02 p.m., Cameron excused himself to the study. Amira slipped away to the library, her fingers brushing the old family portraits as she passed, photos of a legacy built on ambition and ashes. She stopped before one frame, Cameron as a child, his mother beside him, her smile wide and warm, eyes proud and knowing. Taped behind the frame, Amira noticed a folded letter, one final piece of the puzzle. She opened it. "To the woman who finds this, I never knew your name. but I prayed for your soul every day since Cameron was born. My son was not born into love. He was born into inheritance. I raised him with fire, but he always searched for light. I couldn't give it to him. But you will. Promise me this. If they come for him, protect him with your heart, because that's the only thing they'll never understand. L. Night. Amira clutched the paper, tears clouding her vision. She whispered, I promise. At 11:45 p.m., the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out. Gasps filled the ballroom. A scream echoed from the north wing. Glass shattered. Then, gunfire. Chaos erupted. Guards drew weapons. Guests ducked. A chandelier crashed to the floor, sparking flames along the tablecloth. And in the middle of it all, Amira turned to find herself face to face with Malik Knight. Miss me? He grinned. She backed away. You're insane. Number, just thorough. He raised a gun, but before he could aim, bang! A shot rang out from behind him. Malik dropped the gun. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. He turned, furious, to see Cameron standing at the edge of the ballroom, gun raised, eyes calm and wild. Get away from my future wife! Malik laughed, stumbling. So noble, so predictable, just like her. He gestured toward Amira. You think she's your salvation, little brother? She's just your weakness, and that's why you'll always lose. He lunged. Amira screamed. Cameron tackled him. They crashed through a marble table, fighting, bleeding, roaring. Security swarmed. It took 4 men to pull Malik off him. As he was dragged out in handcuffs, Malik shouted, This isn't over, Amira. They'll come for you next. And just like that, he was gone. 30 minutes later, the fire was out. The guests were escorted home. The ballroom lay in ashes and broken glass. Amira sat on the marble steps outside the grand hall, barefoot, veil gone, hair undone. Cameron knelt in front of her, bruised and bloodied. You okay? She nodded slowly. You? He smiled faintly. Better now? She touched his cheek. Why does loving you feel like war? He held her hand. Because love is war, but the right kind, the right person, they're the peace after it. She leaned in, kissed him slow, deep, true. As the sun rose over the estate, they stood in the ruined ballroom, surrounded by broken chandeliers and smeared blood, and held hands like survivors. Cameron turned to her. Let's get married. She blinked. Now, before the world catches up again. She grinned. No dress, no vows, no cake, just us. Sounds perfect. They married that afternoon in the rose garden. Raina officiated. Tay served as witness. The koi pond rippled quietly in the background. Cameron slipped the gold ring onto her finger, the one with the engraving that read, Still breathing because of you. And when she said, I do, the earth felt quiet again. That night, a package arrived at Malik's prison cell. No return address. Inside, a photo of Cameron and Amira in their wedding attire. Their faces crossed out. The back marked with a single line. Season 2 begins now. Here comes the end of Season 1. If you're interested in Season 2, comment Mr. Hope Season 2.